Hi guys, it's Poppy. Let's talk about reading fill in the blank today. So if you've done your research before, you might know that in the PTE reading section, there are two fill in the blanks tasks. The first one is reading and writing fill in the blanks, and the last one is reading fill in the blanks. So from my personal opinion, reading and writing fill in the blanks is more vocabulary focused. It's really testing you on your vocabulary range. Meanwhile, reading fill in the blanks is more grammar focused. But overall, the two tasks are very difficult because they are testing you on, yes, your vocabulary range, your grammar, your knowledge of collocation, and your ability to understand context. Another thing that makes these two fill in the blanks reading tasks very difficult is that there are no tips or tricks that you could quickly use to hack the system or beat AI. And so if that is what you expect to get from my video today, then I'm sorry to disappoint you, you're not going to get that today. The two things that I'm going to discuss today includes, first of all, the grammar points that you need to focus on, because from my experience of doing hundreds of these kind of questions, I noticed that they popped up very often. And the second thing is, how do you apply those grammar points so that you could make your decision and come to the correct answer? Another thing is that I'm discussing grammar theories, and so they takes a lot of time to soak it all up. So I really recommend you guys to do a lot of practice, 30, 40, 50 of these fill in the blanks a day, so that by the time that you are taking your test, you've already gone through most of the questions, you have gotten to know most of the new words, and so you are in a better position to take the test. So now that we have gotten a few things straight, let's get started. So our goal in fill in the blanks is always to narrow down the options. So normally you would have to understand the context, so you need to understand the passage, and you also need to understand the options that you're given. But a lot of the time that is very difficult, and so for me personally, to narrow down my choices, a lot of the time I use grammar rules. So just a quick demonstration, you could look at this. As you can see here, for this blank, you see the word to in front of the blank. Usually the thing that go with to or after to would be a verb. Okay, so I look down at the list of options and pick out the verb. So as I look through here, I think the only verb that I have is spread. Okay, that is the only verb that I have, so I put that in there. And I do a quick final check, which is to read through the sentence again to make sure that it makes sense. Okay, so just like that, the first grammar point that you will need to focus on is prepositional verbs. So verbs are verbs, action words, okay? Do, play, work, study. And prepositions are words like in, on, at, between, with, about, a lot of them. And so when those two come together, they'll become prepositional verb. I call them prepo verb to make it quicker. Okay, so the thing about prepo verb is that they mean the exact same thing as the verb. So for example, believe in means the same thing as believe. Focus on means the same thing as focus. But sometimes in particular situation, they require a preposition to go with it. So next time that you see a preposition after a blank, it's very likely that you would need to choose a verb to go in the blank. And what kind of verb? A verb that goes with that particular preposition. For example, focus will go with on. You don't say focus in, focus at, focus on. When it comes to this strategy, there's one thing that you need to remember. Not every time that you see a preposition after a blank that you need to pick a verb to go with that preposition. You have to see if that preposition belongs in what is called an adverbial phrase. So if you don't know what an adverbial phrase is, there's a link in the description that you could check it out. So just to give you a quick reminder, adverbial phrases are phrases that talk about the place, the time, the reason, and many more. For example, in this question here, you see the preposition in after the blank. If you were to pick out a verb to go with the word in, you would immediately be wrong, because you have to see that in is part of an adverbial phrase. So in excellent condition is an adverbial phrase, and so you're not supposed to touch it anymore. And that takes me to the second grammar point. In order for you to do well in reading fill in the blanks, you need to know your word classes. So what are word classes? That will be your verbs, your adjectives, your adverbs, your nouns, and many more. If you don't know the word classes, don't worry, there's also a link in the description that you could read about. If you haven't known yet, there are rules in terms of where each of the words go. For example, adjectives will always go before noun. So you would have to say colorful, painting, instead of painting, colorful. So when I'm dealing with fill in the blank, I would look at the blank, and if I see a noun, and then there's a blank before the noun, my instinct would be to pick out an adjective to describe the noun. So let me show you an example of how I would use my knowledge of where word classes go in a sentence to solve a question. In this question that we're looking at here, I think I could use my understanding of word classes to solve it very quickly. Let's read it. E-learning is a new way forward. We believe in e-learning. So as you can see, there's a blank after believe. Believe is a verb, and what usually goes with verb is adverb. And so I would instinctively look at my adverbs. So I have two adverbs here. So if you haven't known yet, then adverbs will usually end with ly. So I have two adverbs here. And so between the two of them, definitely you believe passionately. You don't believe proportionately. Okay, so I choose it there. Next up, our innovative approach opens up new something for busy professional. So you have new, which is an adjective, and it's trying to describe the word in the blank. So I need to put a noun here. And so opens up something. So to opens up means a positive thing. So I would figure that in the blanks, I need to choose something nice. So I would look at my option nouns that are nice. So chance, opportunities, competition, interaction, life, course. Okay, so these are all nouns, I guess. But the words that has the most positive meaning, I would say opportunities. And also, if you know anything about collocation, you say opens up, opportunities. Next up, what I noticed straight away is the dash. So when you use the dash, you use the dash when you want to explain something further. What I mean is that this part here that's after the dash is going to mean somewhat the same thing with the previously. Here you see there in front of the blank. And so we need a noun in here. Something to combine So I think because this has to mean the same thing here, right? So this is the opportunity. And so I would guess here you say the chance. And these are all adjectives again. And so I would say you say professional and personal life, right? And so I would choose life here. And then the last one, our small virtual classroom facilitate intensive and collaboration. So what I noticed is that it's talking about the nice thing that the virtual classroom is offering, right? So then the first thing is missing, intensive, something, and then collaboration. So that's a good thing. So I have I'd say three options left. Intensive course. That is not a very nice thing. It's challenging in an intensive course. Also competition. Also not a very nice thing. I mean, like having competition is nice sometimes, but we are talking about the things that are very obviously positive. So I would say intensive interaction. So let me check the answer. And so here you go. So that is how I would use my understanding of word class to solve a question. And you also see that I also need to combine that with understanding the context of the passage or what they're trying to say too. So by now you might have one question is that I don't even know the meaning of the word. I've never seen the word before. How do I decide what word class it belongs to? So I have good news. It's at the time you could determine what word class a word belonged to by its suffix. I also included a link in the description. So suffix are the little things that you put at the end of a word to change its meaning a little bit. So for example, with the word compete, you put the suffix tion, you have competition. And if you put the suffix tive, you have competitive. Okay, and so each of those slightly change the meaning of the word. Words that end with tions are usually nouns, and words that end with tive are usually adjectives. For example, if you need to choose an adjective for your blank and you don't see any adjectives in your option, but you do see a word that you don't know, but it does end with tive, you could blindly choose that because it might be correct. The last thing that I want to talk about is knowing your linking words, your conjunctions, and your conjunctive adverbs. So I would call them connectors, alright? So connectors are things that you use to connect your sentences or connect your phrases. So there are two things that you need to know about them. First of all, when they are used. And the second thing is how they are used. You know where to look for more information about it. The example is the word however. Do you know when however is used? Okay, it's used to show contradiction, alright? So you say PTE is easy, however, the reading section is difficult. But did you know that with however, when it's used as a connector, you would always need a comma after however. Next time that you have to choose between different connectors and however is one of the options, try to see if there's a comma after the blank. Alright, if there's no comma after the blank, however, it's not the correct answer. So to help you out with this, I've also included a link in the description with the most commonly used connectors that you could read about. Now let's look at this example. So in this blank here, you have to choose between different connecting words. So you have yet, unless, besides, so. So let's read the sentence. There is an ongoing shift towards experiential learning in business school. There is little empirical evidence to suggest this approach has better impact than traditional learning. Upon reading this, I realized one thing is that the two parts, the one before the comma and the one after it, have somewhat of a contradicting meaning. A lot of people are following that, going toward that, but there's not that much evidence to support it. So in my opinion, I would need to choose a linking word or connecting word that shows contradiction. So the only option that I would see that show contradiction would be yet. Okay? So I could just quickly submit this in and see if it's correct. So in today's video, I have discussed several grammar points that I think are very important for you to know to do well in reading fill in the blanks. However, there are more, and so I'm going to discuss it in my next video. So subscribe, stay tuned for my next post, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Bye everyone.